All right, hello and welcome back to the 316 Investor. My details will be right up here. And with that being said, let's jump right into it. Today's quick video will be what to expect from a buyer's agent, such as myself. I do both listing and buying representations in the state of Oregon. I am licensed in the state of Oregon with eXp Realty. I'm a realtor, broker, investor, YouTuber slash podcaster. With all that out of the way, I definitely can identify what might be good investment properties for you in the state of Oregon, such as duplex, triplex, fourplex, and if you get into commercials, fiveplex, sixplex, and so on and so on. I do work with a lot of lenders that do have quite a few different products, great products by the way, and again, they're all just suggestions. Working with a great realtor also comes with its perks, as well as being able to identify and have networks such as inspectors, lenders, and so on and kind of guiding first time and or seasoned home buyers or investors throughout the process with today's current market. Is today's current market the same way it used to be 4, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago? No, not at all. Before, you could easily put a house on the market 5, 7 days, you'd have an offer. Not only would you have an offer, you would have what's called bidding wars. So bidding wars would basically be a seller would list a house with an agent. The agent would have an offer come in, have another offer come in, maybe a little bit higher, somewhere in between. Then you'd get 5 or 6 offers in. Now, the seller, with the assistance of the seller's agent, would say, all right, I want the highest and best offer. And so, with that being said, you have multiple offers coming in. Now, that seller is going to say, everybody, offer your highest and best offer. Those days are behind us for right now. Today's market places the buyer, you, in the best seat possible. You don't necessarily, in most cases, you don't have to do those bidding wars. We're not in that type of market yet. Reason being is a lot of the inventory coming out of what we just came out of, high interest rates and so on. Interest rates are starting to look definitely a lot better. I do suggest that you work with a lender or a lender that I would suggest to actually go over those rates and what those might look like for you on the loan side of things. But however, on the house side of things, the market is starting to trend into a positive outlook for home buyers. Again, there's always the option, you may or may not see it that way, but there is always the option to refinance into a better rate down the line in the future. Keeping that in mind. The house that you get into, and I have always said this for a while now, the house that you get into doesn't have to be the house that you stay into, right? The house that you stay into, you can always fix it, sell it for a bigger house, a smaller house. You can always get into a loan with the rate. You can always refinance into a better rate. So again, the options are always going to be there. Now, today's topic, what should a buyer's agent be doing for you, the buyer? A buyer's agent or a real estate professional is paid by the buyer to help them find a home that fits their needs and a budget. They can perform many duties, including representing the buyer, right? What are we doing? We're representing the buyer. Our best interest is what the buyer wants. What does the buyer need? What are they looking for? My first question to a client would be, hey, thanks for employing me to work with you and be your representation and to go to bat for you when it comes to negotiations and knowing what to look for, handling all of your paperwork. Now, let's talk about how big of a house do you want? What lot size do you want? Do you want gardening? Do you want space to maybe have if you have pets, do you want a dog run? Do you want a cat run? Do you want an area to maybe put some birds? Do you want to grow a bunch of fruit vegetables? And so, there's a lot of different aspects to that. Do you want a 1-story? Do you want a 2-story? Do you want a 3-story? How many rooms do you want? How big do you want those rooms? Do you want it updated? Do you want a fixer-upper? A lot of those type of things when looking for a home, super critical when working with a realtor and trying to find that right home. Working with a realtor obviously gets you into those homes because as licensed agents of the state, we're able to get into those homes using our licenses that are registered. We pay fees. We pay a lot of marketing fees. We pay a lot in fees to certain associations to maintain our license and to stay current with a lot of training that goes on, things that need to be looked at, aware of. The market in today's field that we're working in is super aggressive. Now, you may not feel that like that, you may not be aware, but there are a lot of, we'll buy your house now, 10 to 15 days, we will close, all cash. Sound familiar? Those type of marketing tactics can be, not always, can be pretty scrupulous sometimes, and not always actual, and can be more damaging to the seller. And it definitely hurts the buyer's market too, because those would-be houses that would be great deals for a first-time home buyer, it's hard. It's hard now for those buyers to even get into those homes because those homes are no longer there. The seller saw that deal, scooped it up, they didn't know what their house was worth, blah, 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 whatever the case situation may be. Now, a buyer's agent acts as an impartial advisor to help the buyer avoid emotional decisions and keep their best interest in mind. Sometimes when a buyer sees a home, they're like, you mean I could get this house? I could get the 3 bedrooms, 2 baths? I can get the space outside that I want? Great, let's get it. Let's sign the contract today. Hold your horses, says the realtor. There is an issue up there that I see. There's an issue down there that I see. You may want to think about this, or you may want to think about that. What is this going to look like on paper? Certain inspections, certain things to be aware of, right? Those are one-on-one conversations that a buyer would have with their agent, right? So kind of bringing a reality to the home, separating it and calming down the emotional energy of buying a home, and making sure that it is the right decision for you, the buyer, right? That's ultimately our job. Make sure that we are being 100% transparent without an opinion. Working with a realtor that has a pretty generalized opinion about a particular home, it's okay. But you don't want them to be like, well, and they definitely cannot and should not be, well, you don't want to buy this house because it's here. You don't want that. If you like the home and it is what you want, be aware, be aware of what's in the area. That's fine. But to base it off of just that may or may not be a good idea, because the home itself is probably a really good idea. I mean, it might work out for you if you can make it work. Putting up a fence, safeguarding your home. I mean, you're basically, it's ultimately you, the buyer's decision to make that decision. I never personally try to stand in the way of my clients when it comes to buying a home. I can say, well, this area has, a lot of jobs, a lot of amenities and stuff like that. Or this area has a lot of trees and open fields. Take your pick, right? But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to say, well, this place here needs a lot of work. It's pretty obvious, right? It just wouldn't do that. Because first of all, you're going to miss out on a lot of homes that, you could make work. And ultimately what's going to happen is you may find one house that you really, really fall in love with emotionally, and it just attaches you to it instantly. Like finding that one true love, right? You may just fall in love with it at first sight. And in many cases, that happens. It happens with me and my wife on this house. First sight, we fell in love with it. Yeah, it needed work. Did we put in the work? Yeah, Yeah, it didn't come with the fence. We put we put in ourselves. We didn't pay anybody else. We put in ourselves an entire fence around a whole acre and a half. Was that hard? Yeah, we did it right in the middle of July in 2020. It was hot and it was tough, but we did it. Putting in work to get into a home, and making it yours. This has all of our final touches on it. All of our touches, maybe not final touches, but definitely touches, that makes it more personalized. And I gotta say, being a homeowner and an investor on other properties, there is a great feeling that comes along with owning a property and making it yours. Things that I've always wanted to do as a homeowner, even when renting, was I always wanted to be able to cut my own grass, push a lawnmower, just being out there, just soaking it all in, right? That was the thing for me. You may have a different thing. But once I got that feeling, I realized pushing a lawnmower wasn't the idea. I needed to get a riding lawnmower. So here I am out there now with a riding lawnmower. And I got to say that is definitely a lot better. But definitely home ownership takes its appreciation. When you have visitors, family on over, they're like, wow, it's a beautiful home. I like what you did with it. I like the colors, I like the ambience. I like, what you did out there in the garden and stuff like that. That's appreciable. Anyways, making up some words here. Anyways, moving on, finding a home. The agent can show the properties that meet the buyer's criteria and help them determine their needs and priorities. So again, when I have a client that signs up with me that wants to work with me, I set them up instantly on what they're looking for, their criteria. I write that all down. I put that into our what we have is RMLS or MLS. And it sends them their properties that they want to see, meeting their criteria. You're going to get a whole lot of properties that maybe meet your criteria. It'll be fun. It can be sometimes a little stressful, but make sure that when you're working with an agent, whether it's myself or any other agent, that you're very specific on what you're looking for, because we can be very specific on that criteria when it comes to those trickle down property leads that we're sending on out to currently listed properties. Doing everything the right way can avoid a lot of headaches and stress in the future on making offers and proceeding to escrow and closing. Doing things maybe off market might lead to unaware liens, inspections that may not have been fully done. There's a lot of great off market properties, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the on-market properties, a lot of investors are looking at on-market properties because they do make sense. They can trust the system. They can trust that if it's listed by an agent, that agent has fiducial obligations to fulfill, not only by the state, but also by their brokerage, to make sure that all the documents are done, inspections are done, and blah, 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 blah. So a lot of safety and security in purchasing those properties. Which is why you would want to work with a licensed agent as opposed to somebody that's not licensed, because there's a lot of legalities that can happen with that, where you as the buyer or seller may not be aware of what you're signing. Moving on, negotiating. The agent can negotiate with the seller on the selling price and contingencies and help craft a competitive offer. Let that one soak in for a minute. If I was just out by myself, I knew nothing about real estate, right? And I said, well, hey, you know what? I like that house over there. They got it listed for $285. Okay, I'll go over and offer $285 because, well, that's what they're asking for. No. Check that house out. Work with a realtor that knows the market, that knows what that house is really worth. Let your realtor as a buyer agent do their market analysis. Let them find out, is that property over there overpriced or is it kind of just right? If it's just kind of right, let's find out what we need to do to get it at the right price. You may end up paying around that price, but you also may be paying a little bit lower. Hey, that's great. At least we get it at a fair market price. The negotiating part is basically making that two parties with a mediary on one side and a mediary on the other side, representing those two parties coming together for a mutual agreement. And that is what makes the transaction, right? That was kind of cool, actually. I just thought of that. Anyways, moving on. Handling the paperwork. The agent can handle required paperwork such as drafting and submitting offers, reviewing documents before presenting them to the seller or the buyer for signing. One thing that you do not want to do is make sure that you are presenting an offer that doesn't have contingencies in it. If you're submitting an offer all cash and you're okay with it and it's just the best deal of a lifetime, by all means, do whatever you feel. But if there are some parts where you kind of want to be a little bit more specific on, then definitely make sure that you are and your agent is aware, and the seller and the seller's agent is all aware, in full disclosure, that certain material defects are presented to both parties, right? That everybody's aware and on the same page. That those specifics are written in the contract, because if they're not, and you try to tackle this on your own without a licensed representation, there's a lot that you could be missing, and you won't find out about it until later on when you cross the bridge. You're like, oh, well, now that you have this problem, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so, you're going to not be able to do anything about it because you didn't check that box. What box was that? Oh, you know, the box all the way down at number 215. You forgot to check that box. And because you didn't check that box, were you represented? Well, no. I thought I could do it on my own. Sorry. Maybe next time you'll work with a realtor. You don't want to be in that situation. You do not want to be in that situation. Facilitating the home inspections. Now, when it comes to negotiations, right? Obviously, if there's a listing price and it's up here and you're down here with your offer and that offer is accepted, sometimes we do see, not all the time, sometimes we do see that there is no inspections. Sometimes there's one or two inspections that might really be specific or really matter to the buyer. And in many cases, it all depends on working with your one-on-one with your representation buyer agent and or seller and seller agent, and making sure that those two offers basically come together. It takes 4 people to make the deal, or sometimes 3. I'll say 3. This one right here represents the seller. Buyer is unrepresented, comes to the agent, says, hey, I want to represent you. The seller goes, okay, or the agent goes, okay, I'll represent both of you. So now you're 3 peas in a pod. And that's basically, sometimes you can make a deal work like that. And in many cases, the seller does offer that opportunity for the agent to work both sides. But ultimately, doing the same thing, bringing 2 parties on a mutual agreement together that makes the deal work. So now, providing advice. The agent can provide advice on mortgage approval and utility transfers. So, what I do for my clients is basically say, hey, you're coming to me, you don't have the funds to purchase this obviously at full asking price in all cash. If you do, then great, we should definitely connect. But if you don't, no worries. We can definitely set you up on working with a lender that has worked based off of our experience working with specific lenders, on lenders that might be able to assist you on what it takes to get a loan, where you got to go to get a loan, and what that might look like. Basically just passing you, the buyer, off to a lender that will work for you, then coming back and working with us to actually find that house. There's a multiple step key process here. Basically, if you are looking for a home, we talk about your needs, right? We talk about your needs. We sign an agreement that basically allows me to represent you, or any other agent to represent you. Then, and this is required by National Association of Realtors within August coming up, new laws coming into effect, So we're gonna have to sign an agreement with you, and we'll talk about your criterias. We'll talk about what your wants are, what your needs are, and so forth. Then, if you are already pre-approved, great. Let's go off of that. But if you're not, we will work with a lender, and we will make sure that you have the funds to get the house of your dreams. And once that's done, we'll get the pre-qualification, we'll get the pre-approval, we'll go on out and start looking at homes, right? We'll start submitting our offers. We'll start putting out contingencies. We'll start being a little bit more, if there's a lot of inventory, that's great. You have a great options. If there's a small inventory based off of your criteria, you might have very few options. Keeping your mind open about, will it work? Could it work? I mean, that's the whole key process to investments. Investors, house flippers, all around the nation use that same thought process. Will it work? Can it work? And am I willing to make it work? Willingness. And all three process of that real main aspect of investment is mindset, which leads into my next thing. Talking about mindset, what it takes to get into loans, is going to be in my next video that I'll be hosting with Ryan Gavin, who is a loan officer with Kind Lending. You'll not want to miss that. That will be RSVP. So that link will be down in the description down below. I'll make sure I add that in, and it will specifically say Ryan Gavin and Ray Coburn do first time home buying mastermind class. So we'll be doing that, going really in depth into it. It'll be a series of different key products that we'll be talking about what it looks like to get into those type of situations and so forth. So glad I could take 22 minutes of your time. I hope you have a great day, and I look forward to working with you. If you are looking to buy a house in the state of Oregon or sell a house in the state of Oregon, please feel free to give me a call. My phone number will be right here. Did I do that smooth? I hope so. Anyways, thanks for watching. Subscribe, comment, like, share, do all that stuff. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day.